wonderful week. I am back this week with a vlog I've wanted to do for ages. This week I am going to talk about my sewing mistakes, fails, failures, whatever you want to call them. The things that we do that don't make the blog or the vlog or the Instagram because we're not happy with them, or sometimes we're not only not happy with them, we really don't like them. We all have them, and I have been keeping a stash of them hanging up on my spare room door for quite some time with the idea of sharing them with you all. So that's what I'm going to do this week, because we all make mistakes and I think it's really important to try and remember that you learn from everything. And also, I know I have a lot of beginner sewers who watch this vlog, and I don't want you to think that once you get to a certain level of sewing, or you've been sewing for a certain amount of time, that you won't make mistakes, because that's just not true. So before I get to that, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. It really helps. Every time someone subscribes or someone gives us a thumbs up on one of the videos, it helps more people see the videos, and obviously that really helps me. One, so I know that I'm not talking into the abyss and that people are watching, and two, because as a small business it really helps for me to get seen by more people. So I would really appreciate it if you could give us a subscribe and a thumbs up. I'm just looking. I look, because of the white balance, I look slightly like I'm in heaven at the moment. It's because the door's open behind me and the sun is streaming through. Anyhow, yes, I want to talk to you about failures. This week has been a really lovely week for us. A year ago this week, so this will be up on Friday, and on Tuesday just gone, it was exactly a year. So it was exactly a year since I opened the doors of Satisfaction HQ and our actual bricks and mortar shop. So I recorded a vlog a little while ago about what it was like the first year in business after I launched the business online, and I'll pop that up here if you fancy a watch. It is quite long, but it's more kind of podcast style with me talking about the highs and lows. But yeah, a year ago on Tuesday I opened the shop, and it's been an amazing year. And it's been a really lovely week looking back on it, and I've written a blog post, but if you carry on watching a little bit later, I'll touch on that again, because there is a birthday treat for you all that I'll share with you later in the video. Right, so I'm going to talk about my mistakes and failures with you now. Some of them, actually, when I was getting ready for this video, are quite amusing to me, because they are very silly mistakes. Some of them are things that I've really learnt from, so I wanted to share them with you, and I would love it if you could leave me a comment and tell me about a sewing mistake that you've made, and just let's all recognise the fact that there's no such thing as perfection, and we should stop striving for it. So the first garment that I'm going to show you, and I'm laughing because this is one of the silly ones. So this is a sew over it pussy bow blouse. It's not finished, as you can see. None of these garments are finished, because I've realised before I finished them what a mistake I've made. It's really beautiful fabric. This is from a couple of years ago, and I managed to get the last metre and a bit of this beautiful fabric, and I wanted to make a pussy bow blouse. I didn't have enough to do it exactly as per the pattern, so I split the back so that there was a back seam so that I could get out the small amount of fabric that I had. However, halfway through constructing, put it all together, put the front together, the back pieces, tacked on the necktie, as you can see there, ready to go. It fits nicely, it's a nice flattering shape, and then look what happens on the back. I don't know if you will be able to tell. I'm going to give you a second to look and see if you can spot. So that's the front, these beautiful birds, lovely satin fabric, and that's the back. Can you see it yet? all my birds are upside down. They're all upside down. And I mean, look, can you see? Poor birds. I tried to tell myself that it would be okay because it's like they're flying up and then they're flying over my shoulder and down. But actually, it just made me think of poor dead birds, which wasn't really what I wanted. And I couldn't get hold of any more of this fabric. And therefore it has sat languishing for, as I say, years, because I just, I don't want to throw it out, I don't want to put it for recycling. I could wear it with the birds upside down, I know, and a few people have said to me that it's not very noticeable, but it just makes me feel silly, to be honest. It makes me feel silly that I made a silly mistake, but there we go. I'm going to share it with you so that you know I definitely make silly mistakes, and I'd like to say that that's taught me something, but I still make silly mistakes. I'm going to come on to some of the things that I've learned a little bit later as well. So next up for me was a really disappointing fail. I was really sad about this, and I still am, and again it's been hanging on the back of the spare room door for yonks. Oh, this is obviously a toile, so it's made out of some delightful calico, but this is the By Hand London Elisa Lex dress. I'm going to pop a picture of what the dress should look like up here. This dress, I love the shape, I love the style of it. I spent a long time doing pattern alterations on the paper pattern before I even cut into my toile. It has princess seams, and I needed to do a full bust adjustment on princess seams, which isn't the easiest thing to do. And again, this is from a couple of years ago, so I think maybe about three years ago. So it was quite a learning curve, making sure I got my princess seams correct, and there were a few more bust adjustments that I needed to do. However, once I had made up the toile and done those bust adjustments, I was really happy with the fit. However, I then went to put the sleeves on. I put the sleeves on and it went downhill very quickly. So every time I moved, the sleeves were ruching, they were pulling. I tried a full bicep adjustment, I tried raising the arm side underneath, I tried lowering it, I tried lots and lots of different adjustments, and you can actually see there are so many bits of fabric sewn into this from all of the different iterations that I tried. And in the end, I just gave up. I spent, like I say, probably a good couple of weeks on and off coming back to this. And I never make toiles, but I was so keen on this pattern. I had some beautiful jacquard fabric, which I still have upstairs, that in my mind is this dress. But I never did get to the root of it. However, since that has happened, By Hand London have actually re-released their Elisa Lex dress pattern, and it is, as I say, it's a beautiful pattern, and there are so many gorgeous versions of it. But one of the things that they said when they re-released the pattern was that they'd kept the bodice on the original version. They had the same bodice for the sleeveless option and the sleeved option, and with a woven pattern where you don't have as much movement as you do with jersey, you normally do have a separate sleeve, separate bodice for a sleeved version, because your armhole needs to be in a different place. So I think I will try it again with the new pattern. I've got the updated pattern, they sent it to me, and see whether that makes a difference. But I think this was one of those makes where in my head I had such a vision of how I wanted it to look, and I wanted it to be perfect, and I spent such a long time working on it, and then when it wasn't right I got really frustrated and basically threw it in the corner, hung it on the back of the door and never touched it again. So that one's a bit of a sad one for me. But that being said, I did learn an awful lot from it. I learned how to do my full full bust adjustment on princess seams, which I don't actually wear that regularly, so I haven't done very many of those at all at the time, and there were a few other things that I learned from that as well, so it really wasn't a wasted make, but it was one that at the time I was really sad about. So right, the next one is another slightly hilarious one. Now this is the I'm laughing already because I don't know if you can see without me putting it on. I might go and put it on for you actually, hold on. Okay, this is the Paper Cut Patterns Kyoto jumper. I can't even look at myself and then I start laughing. Again, it's a really lovely pattern. Samantha, who is Say by the Seaside on Instagram and blogs for us, made a beautiful version of this out of our Beatrice Ponte. I will pop a picture of her up here in it, and I will also link to her blog post and review down below. I made this version, or attempted to make this version, out of some beautiful Atelier Brunette sweatshirting that we stocked last year. It's really soft, super soft, and it's got these, see if the camera will focus, these beautiful little pink dots on it. And obviously the pattern has a drop shoulder and a ruffle. However, I have a really bad habit, and when I'm teaching I tell people not to do this, but that doesn't mean I don't do it myself. Because I have a curvier figure, and I often fall towards the higher end of pattern measurements, I have an innate fear of making a garment that is too small. So therefore, instead of trusting the pattern measurements, I very often make things that are too big for me. And as I say, when I teach people not to do this, but that doesn't mean I listen to my own advice. And this was one of those cases. I didn't make a toile because I thought, how difficult can it be? I've made tons of jumpers and sweatshirts. It's got a really simple construction. The fabric's really lovely to work with. Can't go wrong. Well, as you can see from the fact that I look like I'm wearing an oversized elephant skin, I don't think it'd be so bad if it wasn't grey, and the grey wouldn't be bad if the pattern fitted me. Obviously, the drop shoulder is about 3 inches too low. It needs to come up to about here, because at the moment this ruffle is not far off of my elbow. The sleeves are also very long, and because I got you can see, because I've made it too big, the fit around here is just not good at all. And then to compound my misery, because I love this fabric, I shoved it into a drawer, didn't touch it again for quite some time, and then realised that I'd lost the band that I'd cut for the bottom of it. So I couldn't even finish it. If I wanted to, I could just turn it under and hem it, or I could do a contrasting band, but I lost it. I lost my little strip of fabric. So I had intended for ages to unpick it. Obviously it's all been done on the overlocker, so it's going to take me a little while to unpick it. Chop off some down here, chop off some of the sleeve to raise it up a little bit, pop the frill back in higher up, and yeah, at the moment it hits, as I say, close to my elbow, and also if I'm sitting here it's not that far below my chest, and when you've got a broad chest you really don't need the ruffles to be in line and adding even more width to you. So the ruffle should be sitting up here somewhere like you'll see in Samantha's version. So that was a bit of a disappointment, but that was completely my own fault. Right, the final one I want to show you is a coat, and I've talked about this coat on this vlog previously, but again a few years ago. I will link to a video that I recorded when I first started working on this coat so you can see how long ago it was. I will grab it. So, oh, there we go. It is the Closet Case file, not closet case files anymore, the closet case Claire coat. Now I love the look of this pattern, I like the shape of the pattern, I like the collar, yeah, I liked everything about it and I even made a toile, as you'll be able to see from the video that I've linked up there. And then I made it in my fabric, and I bought a boiled wool. The problem is the wool that I bought is not thick enough. It's not, oh sorry, that's next door's dogs. It's not coating weight really. So I'm going to pop it on so you can see, to pop it over my, my wings. No, it's not going to be, it's not going to sit right with the wings, but, and also it's not ironed because it's been again hanging up. There we go. I'm going to stand back slightly so you can see. So I really like the colour. I spent ages, as you can imagine, cutting everything out. I've even put the pockets and the pocket lining in, but the fabric is just way too lightweight. I'm going to take it off because it's quite warm. The fabric is way too lightweight for the coat, so it doesn't have that structured look that the Claire coat is designed to have. And even I think I considered, so it's got tailor's interfacing in it. I spent a fortune on fabrics and interfacings and linings, etc. But I didn't think about making sure I had the right weight of wool. I just thought, wool, that will be fine. But actually it just looks a bit limp and sad, and I think even I've considered interlining the lining and adding that into the coat to give it a bit more body, but I still think the outer fabric is just a bit too limp, which is a real shame because I do like it. And actually when I was trying it on upstairs before I brought it down for this video, I did think, well, maybe I could make a sort of coatigan, so it's more cardigan style, because it seems a shame when the coat is pretty much half sewn. It's even top stitched, but yeah, I think this coat is just destined never to be. But it's one of those ones, it's a bit of an albatross around my neck because I've made it and I put all that effort into it, but it just sits there languishing in a corner. Does anyone else do that? So for me, that again was another one where I learned quite a bit from. And the final one I don't actually have with me because it did actually get completed. It was made, I think maybe three and a half years ago. Sorry, I just have some water. And it was another coat, and it was the Colette and Nice coat. I'm going to pop a picture of that up here. And I made it out of purple wool, which was coating weight, and I lined it with a beautiful emerald green silk. And then I felt like Willy Wonka because it was bright Cadbury purple and green, and it was double-breasted. I don't know if I've got a photo. If I have got a photo of the actual finished coat or me in it, I will pop it up here, but I don't think I have. But yeah, I felt like Willy Wonka because I hadn't thought about how the coat and the lining were going to look together. And the other thing I hadn't thought about was the fact that because I'm large-chested, double-breasted clothes, double-breasted jackets and coats don't suit me at all. In fact, they're incredibly unflattering, and it's quite a short coat as well, so it hits just above my hip, and it just made me feel really frumpy, which was such a shame because, as I say, I put an awful lot of time and effort into it, and I learnt an awful lot from it. I bagged out the lining, I hand stitched the bottom of the hem because it was silk all the way across. I did well pockets and bound buttonholes, and actually it makes me feel a bit sad when I talk about it, because there was some real, I put a lot of time and effort into it, but it was horrible. It was horrible. It was a fashion disaster, for me anyway. So yes, that sat in a cupboard for a very long time, and I eventually put it into the charity recycling bag a while ago, so someone might be walking around wearing it and not feel like Willy Wonka, or maybe they do and they think that that's okay, and that's brilliant. But yeah, so those were the 5 things that I wanted to show you or tell you about. I've learned from every single one of those, and the key things I've learned, which I think are really important, I try and remind myself of them all the time, and I tell my students to remember these things as well. I find it quite helpful to remember them, because the majority of the mistakes that I've made, and these 5 that I've just shown you and talked about, are a very small number. There are so many things that I sew, and of those, a percentage of them is, you know, unsuccessful. It happens. But what I do try and do, as I say, is try and take some learning from each project. So the few things that I try and remind people of is, number 1, don't rush. The prep is critical. So cutting out, measuring your pattern, making a toile, making sure that you measure your grain line, and making sure that you check and double check which way you've laid out your pattern pieces is so important. And based on the number of stupid mistakes I have made, like having birds upside down, it can save you an awful lot of heartache. I am very guilty of rushed sewing, so sewing very quickly and not paying attention to the detail, and sometimes that works for me and I get lucky, and sometimes it doesn't, and it's really disappointing. Making sure you check your sizing, making sure you check all of those bits before you get started. Sizing is the next thing, so do not take your ready to wear measurements and use them to make a pattern, sew up a pattern, because they will not correlate. Do not over or underestimate your measurements, and try and follow the pattern measurements on your actual pattern, rather than just thinking you know best or erring on the side of caution. Now, it is always better to make too big rather than too small, in a sense, because you can take fabric away but you can't add it in. So if you are falling between sizes, I would say go for the larger size, but you don't have to do what I do on a semi-regular basis and make things 3 or 4 sizes too big because you're worried you're not going to fit into them. So yeah, checking your sizing is really, really important. The next thing, which I know so many people struggle with, and I think this comes with time and experience and practice and failures, and that is matching the right fabric to the right pattern. This is probably the most common question that I get asked in the shop, on emails, in comments. How do I know if this fabric is right for this pattern? There are so many resources out there. The number 1 thing I would recommend to you is that when you get a fabric, take a swatch of it and put it into a swatch book, so you can say to yourself, this is a cotton poplin, this is what it feels like, this is a cotton lawn, this is a medium weight chambray, this is a heavy stretch denim, and then next time when you're looking at patterns and it tells you you need X type of fabric, you have something you can refer to. And there are companies out there that do bespoke fabric printing and things like that, that also offer swatch booklets. Sorry, I can't bear looking at myself in this elephant skin. Swatch booklets, so I would really recommend trying those. And also go to your local fabric shop and ask, and if you can't get to your local fabric shop, or you don't have a local fabric shop, we, like lots of other online retailers, also offer a swatch service, and we're also really happy to answer email queries. So we often get people that will email in and say, is this fabric suitable for this pattern, and we'll always try and answer and give guidance and give more suitable suggestions if it's not. So yeah, ask. The next thing is choose your style. So when I first started sewing, when I first started dressmaking again, I wanted to sew all of the patterns, and I was drawn in to sewing the latest pattern, no matter what the style. Now I think to myself, would I wear that if that was in a shop? Would I buy something in that style? Would I buy a double-breasted coat? No, I wouldn't, so therefore I'm not going to sew one. So again, I think it comes with time and knowing your style a little bit more and what suits you. Don't necessarily get sucked into the latest pattern release if you think that that style in ready to wear wouldn't suit you. Just because you've sewn it yourself doesn't mean it's going to suit you either. And then the final thing that I think is really, really important to remember is that nothing is a failure. You learn from everything you make. All of those things that I've just shown you and all of the other things I haven't shown you, I've learned from, and hopefully I don't make the same mistake too many times. And I can guarantee if I showed this or some of those other things to a friend who didn't sew, they would be really impressed, because it is a talent and it is a skill to be able to sew, and even if we do make silly mistakes or we learn from things, that's okay. So I hope you found that useful. It's a bit of a different vlog to the normal style, but as I said, I've really wanted to do it for a while, and I hope that that reassures you and makes you all feel better about some of the mistakes that you've made. So I mentioned earlier that our little shop in Wokingham in Berkshire is one this week. It was our first birthday on Tuesday. I have written a blog post, which I will link up here or down here, which talks about the shop over the first year. There are loads of photos on how it's changed from when we first opened and what it looks like now, and I'd love it if you would have a read of it, maybe leave us a little comment. But there is also a big birthday thank you. So between the 7th of August, which is our birthday or anniversary, and Sunday the 12th of August, midnight on Sunday the 12th of August UK time, there is 15% off everything in the shop except for classes and workshops. So all of our fabrics, our patterns, our haberdashery, you can get 15% off of them. If you're local and you can come and visit the shop, then come in and wish us happy birthday and you'll get the 15% off. But if you're not local, don't worry at all, because you can still have the 15% off. You just need to use the code happy birthday, all one word, at the checkout, and you'll get the discount there. And as I say, that's valid until Sunday the 12th of August at midnight in the UK. So I hope that lots of you will celebrate with us. Anyway guys, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna get out of my my sad looking elephant skin and put back on the Scout tee that I was wearing earlier. And if you liked that blue and cream top that I was wearing, I talked about that in the vlog a couple of weeks ago, so I'll link that up there too. But I hope you all have a really, really good week, and I'm actually going away on Sunday. I'm going to visit my granddad in France. He's in his 80s and we're really close, and he spends quite a bit of time out in France. They've had a house out there for about 30 years, so I'm going to head out there and spend some time with him, but I'm going to be working, so it's going to be really interesting to see how well I can adjust to remote working. In my head, I don't think it's going to be much different to working from home, which I do quite a lot, and I find myself very productive when I'm at home. But when it's baking hot and there's wine and French bread around, who knows how productive I'll be. I'm going to try and make sure I record another video before I go, so that you still have one up next Friday whilst I'm in France. But if I don't, I apologise in advance, but fingers crossed I will get that recorded. So yeah, I hope you all have a fabulous week, and I will see you when I'm back. Take care guys, bye!